guys? Hope everybody's having a fantastic day, whether you're watching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. I'm glad you're here. If you get the chance and you feel so inclined, please hit the subscribe button below. I would appreciate it. Today we are going to jump right into it, and this is a knife that came in at the very end of 2022, maybe on New Year's Eve. It was the last knife I think that came in. It wasn't the last knife ordered from 2022, but it's the last one that I unboxed. So I've been carrying it now for just a couple of weeks, and all I can say is wow. And it is the Renegade Provisions God of Mischief. Number 42 of 480, batch 1, M390, DLC, black with DLC hardware. So the one I got is totally blacked out. When I first searched it, I thought at first that it was the only one that was available, that the others had sold out. I realized that all the variations were still available, and I kept coming back to this one. I'm usually not a DLC guy, but I love the black titanium. I love the black micarta. I love the black blade, and all I can say about this knife is wow. It does have, and you can see what I would consider one of its downsides. You can see my DNA there in the fuller. It is a front flipper, so you can front flick it quite nicely. It's got very, very good detent. In my opinion, the detent is all but perfect, and it was made by Reate for Renegade Provisions, whose first knife, if I'm not mistaken, or the first knife that I was aware of, was the gun rear, which was a much bigger knife. It was a knife that was interesting to me, that I was lucky enough to handle at Blade Show, but it was just too big of a knife. This knife is a good, what I would consider perfect size knife for me, with a medium large size hand. We'll do a couple of size comparisons in a sec, but just with the handle and the jimping that's here on the blade, and with this generous finger choil, the Swarncliffe blade is just, it's just slicey as it can be. The action on this knife is fantastic. Again, front flipper with drop shut action. And again, I like to middle finger flick the knife, and this has got a deployment hole that you don't ever get any slippage of. The deployment hole, if you could see in there, I've got a little fingernail dust, but it is very sharp. If you look at it closer, it's not sharp, it's actually stepped. I don't think my camera will pick that up, but there are actually little stair steps in there that make the grip, it's intended. It's not a mistake that it's sharp. And when I say sharp, some people might not find that to be uncomfortable. I did it first, but in the last 2 weeks of carrying this knife and just getting used to flipping it, the sound that it makes, the way that it cuts, it is quickly becoming, it is definitely in my top 5. I can say that right now without doubt. And there are some other knives that, the one that I'm carrying today is still my number 1. But back to this knife, the Renegade Provisions God of Mischief. It's got a flat grind, super, super slicey, super thin behind the edge, and what I would consider, let me grab a piece of paper, to be a very good cutter. I judge it by the sound or lack of sound it makes moving through the material. And I've cut cardboard with this knife, I've cut paper with this knife. I've not cut wood with this knife yet, but I have not even put it on a strop. So it's a very, very able cutter. It's got a bolster lock, which for me is a win. I like a bolster lock, or if you call that a inset frame lock. The lockup on it is great at about, I would say 25-30%, and then it drops to my nail, and with one little flick it drops. Now, good friend of mine, E&G EDC, and G is for gangster, puts skiff bearings in his and swears it makes the knife better. I absolutely love the action and doubt I will put skiffs in this right away, even though I know that everything I put skiffs in seems to make it better. But this is, again, made by Reate. To me, the action's absolutely fantastic. The jimping on the front flipper is not too aggressive. It does go all the way around the edge there, which is good. Gives you kind of a very sure hold. But again, I'm a middle finger or reverse flick. That's for you, Mr. Said Stevie, from your live and your satisfactions tonight. The reverse flick or the Spidey flick, that's kind of how I roll with the knife when I deploy it. That's how I prefer to deploy it. And that is, again, the Renegade Provisions, totally blacked out, God of Mischief. So let's do a couple of quick size comparisons. Give me 1 second here. Let's look at it next to, move this box out of the way, our Cold Steel 4 Max. It is much smaller than the 4 Max. And let's look at it next to our Civivi Baby Banter. It is bigger than our Baby Banter, smaller than our 4 Max. Let's look at it next to the Bitch-Made Bug Out. It's a little bit bigger than the Bitch-Made Bug Out. And we will look at it next to the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, of which it is smaller than the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So guys, looking at that knife, I'm going to say it's roughly about the same length as the Bitch-Made Bug Out. Now this knife, to me, has what I consider a very hardy and stable and quality build. So you've got this, they did leave a little pin here for lanyard lovers, which is great. I love it. It doesn't interrupt the flow of the micarta. You've got almost a full 3/4 back spacer here. The jimping that rides up on this blade is just really well swedged. The finger choil is dynamite. You can just get so many good grips on this knife, guys. And these knives are still available. I will put in the description just a regular link to this knife and to the ones that are available. I think it's the satin. A good friend of mine, A to Z EDC, had one show up today. He got black micarta with raw titanium and a satin blade. So depending on what your jam is, this is a knife that I can honestly say is going to be one of my favorites. It's already one of my favorites. I carry it quite often. I love the sound of it. When I say quite often, this is getting 3 times a week pocket time. And I've got a lot of knives, guys, that I like to carry, especially now that I'm talking about them a little bit more. That's why you see overview videos and you don't see what I consider review videos. What I'm trying to share is how a knife makes me feel, what I think about the knife, and all these knives that you see on my videos are knives that I've personally purchased with my cash, and they're in my collection. And you know, I just want to share them with you guys and tell you if I think that they were a good value. This knife is on the higher end, or the mid to higher end of knives that I will actually buy. And do I think it's worth it? 100%. I think this knife is a fantastic knife for anybody looking for an EDC, well-built, Warncliffe style knife. in, you know, kind of a medium. I wouldn't even call this a medium large. I would call this a medium sized knife. I can break out my Ben Peterson, impossible for my old eyes to read, titanium ruler and give you an idea on the blade is right under 3.5 inches. The handle is right under 4.5 inches. The overall length, wow, it's a 6-inch ruler, so I'm going to say it is about an 8-inch knife. And that's not, you know, that's closer than horseshoes, or close enough for horseshoes and hanging edge, right? But I'll have some specs below that I will take from Renegade Provisions website. And again, you can see all that white in my black blade there and how clean it is on the thumb side. That's DNA, people. That is, for me, flicking the knife. And I love it because, again, it's not just sharp, it's stair-stepped, it's intentional. It's so you get a good, in my opinion, so that you get a good access to that slot there and that you're not going to fail the knife when you try to flip it. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to either like that or dislike that, but you could easily, if you were totally opposed to it, take a Dremel, go in there and smooth that out. To me, I just wipe it down with oil, clean it out, and continue to just flip the shit out of it because I love it. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video. I appreciate every opportunity I get to spend time with you guys. I appreciate every time that you stop by for Friday Night Flicks and chat with me for a little bit. I really appreciate when you look out for the guy or gal to your left, you look out for the guy or gal to your right, and just continue to look out for each other, guys. Go forward with love in your heart. Choose debate, not hate. Subscribe if you're so inclined. I love you all. Peace.